Okay, so first you're gonna check underneath the truck. Make sure there's no water leaks, no oil leaks. Make sure your truck is not leaning, because it could be a suspension or a flat tire. You have to fix it right away if it is. Then I'm gonna check my license plate. Make sure it's always up to date, clean and visible. Make sure it's properly secure. Then I'm gonna check my bumper. Make sure my bumper is in good condition, properly secure, not cracked or bent or bolts missing on it. Then I'm gonna check all my lights. I'm gonna check my high beam, my low beam, my left signal, right signal, my four-way flashers, and the micro lights on top of the truck. Make sure all my lights are working properly secure. Make sure they have no covers missing on it, and they should be amber in color. And then I'm gonna check my windshield. Make sure it's properly secure with no cracks, no legal stickers on it. Make sure it's clean so you can see through it. And then I'm gonna check the hood. Make sure my hood is in good conditions. Make sure it's easy open, easy close. So you open the hood. Then you come to the passenger side. And you're gonna come to the front tires. These tires cannot be no less than 432 tread depth. Pressure cannot be no less than 110 psi air pressure. And then I'm gonna check both of my tires on both sides. Make sure my tire, it has no bubbles, cuts, tears, leaks in it. Make sure my tire is in good condition. And make sure I have no space between my tire and my rim. Then I'm gonna check my rim. Make sure my rim is in good conditions, not cracked or bent or illegal rust on it. Then I'm gonna check all my lug nuts to make sure they're all properly secured tight, none missing, and make sure they have no rust in them. If they have any rust, they could be loose, so I have to check for that. And in here, I have my hub seal. Make sure my hub seal is properly secured, not leaking any oil, with all the bolts and screws properly secure and tight. And then I'm gonna check my air valve right here. Make sure it's not leaking any air, always with the cap on secure. And then you tell the instructor, behind the rim, I have my brake drums and my brake shoes. Make sure my drums, they have no cracks, no legal wells or grease, oil inside of it. Make sure they're always clean. And inside the brake drums, you have the brake shoes. Make sure the brake shoes have no less than 1/4 of an inch thickness. If it's less, you have to get it replaced right away. Then I'm gonna come over here. This one right here, this is my brake chamber. This is my brake chamber clamp. Make sure my clamp is properly secured, tight. Make sure it's in good conditions. Then I'm gonna check my brake chamber hose. Make sure my hose is in good condition, properly secure, with no cuts, tears, or leaks in it. Make sure it's in good condition. Then right here, I have my slack adjuster for my brakes. Make sure my slack adjuster is always a 90-degree angle. If it's not, I have to fix it right away. And right here, I have my push rod. Make sure my push rod, it has no more than 2 inches of free play. If it's more, I have to get it fixed right away. Then I'm gonna go to my suspension. I'm gonna start by checking my shock. Make sure my shock is properly secured to the frame, top and the bottom, with no screws or bolts missing on it. Make sure my shock is not cracked, bent, or leaking any fluids, because they have oil inside of it. Then I'm gonna check my leaf springs right here and my leaf spring hanger. There's one in the back too. Make sure both of my hangers are properly secured to the frame with no screws or bolts missing. Make sure they're not cracked either. Then I'm gonna check my leaf springs. Make sure my leaf springs, they're in good condition, not cracked or bent. Make sure they have no legal wells or shifted or anything like that. And then this is my spacer. And these two, they're my U-bolts that keeps the leaf springs together. Make sure they have no bolts missing on the U-bolts. Make sure they're properly secure. Then I'm gonna check my frame. Make sure my frame is straight, not cracked, bent, no legal wells on the frame. Make sure it's in good condition, secure. Then this is my cooling tank. Make sure my cooling tank is always full to the maximum level, always with the cap on secure. And then I'm gonna check my cooling tank hoses right here. Make sure all my hoses are properly secured. No, make sure they have no cuts, tears, or leaks in them. Make sure they're in good condition, all of the hoses. And this one right here, this is my alternator. Make sure my alternator is properly mounted, secure. Make sure it's properly working. Then I'm gonna check my alternator wires behind. Make sure my wires are properly connected and secure. Make sure they have good connection. And then underneath over here, I have my water pump. Make sure my water pump is in good condition, properly mounted and secure. Make sure it's not leaking any water. And then I'm gonna check my water pump hoses. Make sure my hoses are properly secure with no cuts, tears, or leaks in them. Make sure they're in good condition. And then you tell the instructor that your air compressor, the alternator and the water pump, they're belt driven, okay? Make sure the belts have no more than 3/4 of an inch of free play. And make sure the belts have no cuts or tears. Make sure they're in good condition, all the belts. Then we're gonna go to the driver's side. Okay, So on this side, first I'm gonna check my oil with my dipstick right here. If I need to add oil, I'm gonna add by gallons, not by quarts through here on top. Then I'm gonna check my air compressor right here, the red one. Make sure my air compressor is in good condition, properly mounted and secure. Make sure it's not leaking any air. Then I'm gonna check my air compressor hoses. Make sure all my hoses, they're in good condition, secure, with no cuts or tears or leaks in them. Make sure they're all secure. Then with the blue cap is my air compressor governor. Make sure they're properly mounted and secure. Make sure they're in good condition. Then I'm gonna check my hoses for that. Make sure they have no cuts or leaks or tears in it. Make sure they're all secure. Then underneath, the gray one is the power steering pump. Make sure my power steering pump is in good condition, properly mounted and secure. Make sure it's properly working. And then I'm gonna check my power steering hoses. Make sure the hoses have no cuts or tears or leaks in them. Make sure they're all in good condition. And then you tell the instructor that your air compressor and your power steering pump, they're both gear driven, okay? They have no belts. This one right here, these are my service lines. Make sure my service lines, they're properly mounted and secure. And make sure they have no bubbles, cuts, tears, or leaks in them. Make sure they're all in good condition, secure. This one right here, this is my electrical wires. Make sure all my wires are properly connected and secure. Make sure they're in good condition, all of them, secure. Then I'm gonna check my steering shaft right here. Make sure my steering shaft is straight, not cracked, bent. Make sure it has no legal rust on it. And these ones right here, these are my universal joints. Make sure my universal joints, they're always greased, properly mounted, secure all the time. Then I'm gonna check my gearbox. Make sure my gearbox is in good condition, properly mounted, secure. Make sure it's properly working. And then I'm gonna check my gearbox hoses. Make sure all my hoses, they're in good condition, properly secure, with no cuts, tears, or leaks in them. Make sure they're all secure. And then you tell the instructor, you're gonna check your steer linkage system. You're gonna start with the pitman arm. This one is my drag link right here. I have my upper, and on the bottom is the lower control arm, and the one that connects the tires, this one is my tie rod. Make sure they're not cracked or bent. Make sure they have no legal rust on it, and they're always secure with this castle nut and the cotter pin. Make sure they're always locked to keep them in place secure. Then after that, we're gonna go to the other side, back to the driver's side, the passenger side of me. Then I'm gonna come check the door. Make sure my door is in good conditions. Make sure it's easy open, easy close, so you open it. And then you show me weather strip. Make sure all my weather strip is properly secure so no water can get in the cap. Then you close the door. Then you tell the instructor that in here you have your door hinges. There's two. Make sure they're properly secure, not cracked or bent. Make sure they're in good condition, easy to open. Then I'm gonna check my mirrors and my mirror frame. Make sure my frame is properly secured to the door with no screws, bolts missing on it. And make sure the frame is not cracked or bent. Make sure it's properly secure. Then I'm gonna check my mirrors. Make sure my mirrors, they're clean and adjusted to the trailer so I can see the end of the trailer. And make sure they have no cracks and no legal stickers on it. Make sure they're always clean. Then I'm gonna check my steps. Make sure my steps are properly mounted and secure. Make sure they have no grease or oil. Make sure they're always clean so you won't slip when you get on. Then I'm gonna check my diesel tank. Make sure it's properly mounted and secure to the frame with my straps. Make sure my straps are properly secure to the frame. Then I'm gonna check my diesel tank cap. Make sure it's always locked secure all the time. Then I'm gonna check my diesel tank. Make sure it's not leaking any diesel. Make sure it's not cracked or bent. Make sure it's in good condition, secure. Then I'm gonna check my exhaust system right here. Make sure it's properly mounted, secure. Make sure it's not leaking any carbon. If it is, I have to get it fixed right away before I could drive it again. Then I'm gonna check my catwalk right here. Make sure my catwalk is properly mounted and secure to the frame with no screws, bolts missing on it. Make sure the catwalk, it has no grease, no oil. Make sure it's always clean all the time, secure, okay? Then I'm gonna check my service lines. So the red one is the emergency line, and the blue one right here is the service line. Make sure both of my lines are properly secured to the trailer with my glad hands. And inside these glad hands, they have a little seals. Make sure the seals, they're in good condition so they won't be leaking any air. And then I'm gonna check both of my lines. Make sure my lines have no bubbles, cuts, tears, leaks in them. Make sure they're both in good condition. Then I'm gonna check my electrical wire. This one, the green one. Make sure it's properly secured to the pigtail of the trailer. Always secure to the pigtail, okay? Then I'm gonna come underneath. I'm gonna check my dry shaft. Make sure it's always straight. Make sure it's not cracked, bent. Make sure it has no legal rust on it. These are my universal joints where they connect. There's two, one in the back and one in the front. Make sure they're always greased, properly secure all the time, both of them. Then after that, I'm gonna come to these tires right here. Both of these tires, they cannot be no less than 232 tread depth, pressure cannot be no less than 100 psi air pressure. Then I'm gonna check both of my tires. Make sure my tires have no bubbles, cuts, tears, leaks in them. Make sure they're both in good condition. And make sure between the both tires, I have no debris, like any garbage, rocks, nothing stuck in between them. And again, no space in between my tire and my rim. Then I'm gonna check my rim again. Make sure my rim is in good conditions. Make sure it's not cracked, bent. Make sure it has no legal rust on it. Then I'm gonna check all my lug nuts. Make sure all my lug nuts are properly secure, tight, not missing. Make sure they have no rust in them. If they have any rust, they might be loose, so I have to check for that. And in here, I have my hub seal, axle hub seal. They have oil too, so make sure it's not leaking any oil. And make sure all the bolts and screws are properly secure and tight. Make sure they're in good condition. Then I'm gonna check my air valve again, right here. Make sure it's always properly secure with the cap on, not leaking any air. And then you tell the instructor behind the second tire, you have a brake drum and a brake shoes. Make sure my drums, they have no cracks, no legal wells, no grease or oil inside of it. Make sure they're always clean. And make sure my brake shoes have no less than 1/4 inch thickness. If it's less, I have to get it replaced right away. Then I'm gonna come on this side over here. I'm gonna come check again my brake chamber. And this is my brake chamber clamp. Make sure my clamp is properly mounted secure with the bolt, make sure it's tight. Then I'm gonna check my brake chamber hoses. Make sure my hoses are properly secure with no bubbles, cuts, tears, or leaks in them. Make sure they're in good condition, all the hoses. And then you tell the instructor that behind the brake chamber, you have the push rod and the slack adjuster, same as the front. Make sure your slack adjuster is always a 90-degree angle. If it's not, you have to get it fixed right away. And make sure your push rod, it has no more than 2 inches of free plate. If it's more, you have to get that fixed right away, okay? Then I'm gonna go to my suspension. So right here, I have my leaf springs again, and this is my leaf spring hanger. Make sure my hanger is properly mounted and secured to the frame with no screws, bolts missing on it. Make sure the hanger's not cracked or anything. Then I'm gonna check my leaf springs. Make sure all my leaf springs, they're in good condition, not cracked, bent, shifted, not missing. Make sure they're all secure. And then in the middle of the leaf springs right here, I have my spacer and my 2 U-bolts that keeps them together. Make sure they're properly mounted, secure, with no bolts missing on the U-bolts. Then I'm gonna go to the back. Okay, over here, I have my airbag. Make sure my airbag is properly mounted and secured to the frame, top and the bottom. Make sure it has no bolts, screws missing on it. And make sure my airbag, it has no bubbles, cuts, tears, leaks in it. Make sure it's in good condition, my airbag. Then I'm gonna check my shock right here. Make sure my shock is properly mounted, secured to the frame, top and the bottom, no screws or bolts missing on it. Make sure my shock is not cracked or bent or leaking any fluids because they have oil inside of it. Then I'm gonna check my tractor lights over here. Make sure all my lights are working properly. My right signal, left signal, forward flashes, brakes. Make sure all the lights are working properly, okay? No covers missing on it. Then I'm gonna go to my 5th wheel right here. So when you get here, you tell the instructor that you're gonna make sure you have no space between the 5th wheel and the apron. Make sure the platform is always greased all the time, properly secure. And then you tell the instructor that on the other side, you have the landing gear handle. Make sure your handle is always locked, secure all the time. And then you tell the instructor that inside of the 5th wheel, you have a kingpin. And you're gonna make sure your locking jaws, they're always locked around the kingpin. And make sure your kingpin is not cracked or bent. Make sure it's in good condition, properly secure. And this one right here, this is my 5th wheel mount. Make sure it's properly mounted to the frame with no screws, bolts missing on it. Make sure they're all in good condition, tight. And this one right here, this is my sliding plate for the 5th wheel. Make sure it's always locked and secure all the time, okay? After that, I'm gonna go check my trailer. So first, you kind of have to glance at the trailer. Make sure the trailer looks straight, not cracked or bent. Make sure it looks in good conditions all around it. Then I'm gonna check my marker lights. Make sure all my lights are working properly, secure around the trailer. They should be amber color also. Then I'm gonna check my winches. Make sure my winches, they're all working properly, secure around the trailer. Then I'm gonna check my DOT stickers. Make sure they're always clean and visible around the trailer. Then I'm gonna check my hooks. Make sure all my hooks are properly secured to the trailer, not cracked or bent or missing any. Then I'm gonna come to my landing gear. Make sure my landing gear is easy up, easy down. Make sure my landing gear shoes, make sure they're always flexible. And then you tell the instructor that on the other side, you have the landing gear handle. Make sure your handle is always locked and secure all the time. Then I'm gonna go underneath the trailer to check all my cross members, all these bars. Make sure they're all secure, not cracked, bent, shifted, or anything like that, okay? Then I'm gonna come to my last axle. When you get to this axle, you're gonna tell the instructor that this axle and the front axle, they're both the same. The only difference is this axle has no airbags and no shocks, but instead it has 3 bars extra. You gotta just mention them. So this one in the middle is my sway bar. This one right here is my torque bar, and on the other side is my torque bar adjuster. Make sure they're all properly mounted, secure, not crack or bent. After that, you're gonna come check to the back. Okay, I'm gonna check my mud flaps. They should be between 4 to 6 inches from the floor. Make sure they're properly secure with no bolts missing on it. Then I'm gonna check my trailer lights. Make sure all my lights are working properly. My right signal, left signal, forward flashes, brakes, reverse lights. Make sure the covers are not cracked or anything, not missing. They should be red color. Then I'm gonna check my Dod bumper. Make sure my bumper is in good conditions, not cracked or bent. Make sure it's properly secure. This one right here is my pinto hook. Make sure it's always locked, secure all the time with no screws or bolts missing on it. And this one is my chain hook. Make sure my chain hook is not cracked or bent. Make sure it's properly secure. Then I'm gonna check my license plate. Make sure it's always up to date, clean and visible. Make sure it's properly secure all the time. And that's it for this inspection.